Hello, 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 and welcome to August 25th, Secrets of the Immortal Call. We are going to be discussing Chapter 3. I'm very excited to talk about it with you today. And as usual, to start off the call, let's just have everybody say their name, where they're from, and why they are excited about today's call. So I'm Jared Krebs. I'm in San Antonio, Texas, where there's a hurricane about to happen, but don't worry, I'm safe in my house. And I am excited about today's call just because I feel like we missed a week, and I've missed talking to you about Course in Miracles and sharing things, and I'm excited to kind of get back into it. So that's why I'm most excited about today's call, and Chapter 3 was great. All right, who wants to go next?
Nathan is muted. Let me unmute him.
No.
Yeah, you can do it.
Oh, he muted himself back up.
Yeah, he knows how to mute and unmute himself.
He's very talented.
Well, we can have a war. We can have a muting war.
Let's go ahead.
All right, we'll go next. I'm excited because I'm really finding the secrets of the immortal very like applicable. Like you can apply what we've learned on each one. And I have found this chapter, I took 8 pages of notes. I thought it was that good. I was like, wow, I just couldn't stop. So I'm excited.
Sweet.
Yes.
How about
Well,
you?
yeah, and what we're learning, well, from all of it, but what we're seeing, especially on this chapter, applies to everyday life. When you talk with people, and yeah, it's just all of the concepts and basically forgiveness.
Yeah.
With everything. So yeah, we're just. I'm fixing it. I'm fixing Legos.
Oh, okay.
We're multitasking.
Plus, I gotta leave here in a few minutes.
Dad's going to have to just listen to the call on mute on his way to take Blake.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be here, though.
Mom's here. She got some great notes. It's all fixed.
Beautiful. All right, Nathan.
Hey guys, Nathan in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm excited because I re-listened to Chapter 3 and had some just realizations about the way the world works.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear about those. All right. Well, let's get started. My top highlights from Chapter 3 was hearing how Gary kind of was able to come out of his shell into public speaking and the process that he went through. You know, I didn't really think about it all the time that he was visited by Art and Persa for 10 years or more, like 11 years before he wrote the book or while he wrote the book. I mean, that's a long time. And that during that time, he was very, very shy. He only went to one Course in Miracles group that time. You know, he didn't want to be in the around people, and he would never go to the Course in Miracles conference. And how through different experiences along that path, he finally came out of his shell and started speaking publicly. I really liked that story. It was really cool to hear. And it was also cool to hear a lot of the stuff that sets the record straight, you know, how they talk about how, like, the passion of the Christ and the use of guilt to start a religion. And if I'm going to be mad at the Christian church or the Christian faith for that, then that's something that I need to forgive in myself. So that's like, okay, you can't hold a grudge. I can't hold a grudge. And so I think I'm a lot more okay with everything that the churches have done, because I know that I need to forgive and view it the right way, you know, through the thought system of the Holy Spirit, not the thought system of the ego. So that's been great. And then in outside of the audiobook, just in practical application, every time I'm like around my father-in-law, I've been thinking the thoughts, "You are Christ, pure and innocent, all is forgiven and released." And then there's this part in the book that I've been in the Course in Miracles that talks about how we were never had any guilt even for 1 second. We never had any guilt even for 1 second. So I kind of added that in there when I'm around my father-in-law. I think you've never had any guilt even for 1 second. You're innocent and pure, all is forgiven and released. You never had any guilt ever, even for 1 second. And so, I haven't had any like big, huge upsets or things to forgive in the last 2 weeks. But when I do walk by people sometimes in the airports or whatever, I'd be like, "You're Christ, pure and innocent, all is forgiven and released." And I look at the next one. "You are Christ, pure and innocent, all is forgiven and released." And then I look at the next one. "You are Christ, pure and innocent, all is forgiven and released." So I've been applying it and applying it and applying it. I think the main one is with my father-in-law, but doing it with everybody as well. And that's kind of the update from over here. So that's what I got. Who wants to go next?
Okay.
Hey.
Oh, you go ahead, Nate.
Whoop. Fight. You go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You sure?
Well, then we're having a mute war.
Yes,
Sure.
Go ahead. Go for it. I'll be last.
Okay. So nothing epic from me on this one, but I liked it, and I appreciate, Jared, you saying that it was like Christianity and your feelings about it and thoughts about it. It's just another thing to forgive, because I guess Gary Renard can go to that stupid Mel Gibson movie 2 times, 2 times too many, and then have a different experience, then I guess I can do that about anything. So the realization that I had about the way the world works is that fundamentalism and extremism is all around us, just in different packages. So like we have fundamentalist, extremist Christians exist in our country, just the same way that fundamentalism and extremism related to religion exist in other countries. And it just comes in a different package here where people maybe are less honest about it and they don't talk about it. And then when maybe we use our government for anyway, so I don't need to get into all of that, but I kind of realized oh shit, that's everywhere. It's not just in some far off country, and it's just in a different package. And now I'm realizing that, it's another thing to forgive.
Yes.
So that was really interesting, and I appreciate seeing it through your eyes, Jared. And then I was going to say that I do the same thing that you do, Jared, and walking around and thinking those thoughts about people, especially at airports and when I'm traveling, because it gives my mind something to do. It's good. Oh man, I was really working hard on it. One day at the airport last week, I was in the security line for half an hour, it seemed like, and I was like, I am forgiving so hard right now. Speed it up.
Awesome.
It didn't. I don't think it sped it up, but not looking for outcomes really. So another thing though I was going to mention, Jared, is that I also do it later on. So if there was someone that I saw and forgot to do it, then I remember later on, I just passed that person 5 minutes ago and forgot to forgive them, and then I do it. And to us and the Holy Spirit, it's the same thing. Remembering it or experiencing it in the moment is the same thing.
Yes. Awesome.
And then, I guess the last thing I was going to share is that I recently finished reading Nonviolent Communication, and it was interesting, the parallels that were there. He says things like, "You're never angry for the reason you think you are."
Yes.
And I was like, oh shit, that's straight out of the Course in Miracles.
Right? That is straight. Does it quote A Course in Miracles?
No, but it's just interesting. I've read a couple other books like this too, where people have come to conclusions just through their own experience and life and the work they've done that are really in alignment with the Course in Miracles. So it's just through his own work, starting nonviolent communication, he has come to this principle that there's no one responsible for your feelings but you, and you need to divorce yourself from blame on another person. And I was like, wow, it's interesting.
Very Course in Miracles-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And who wrote
Yeah.
that?
Oh, I don't remember the guy's name. He died a couple of years ago. He's not around anymore, but I just heard lots of people reading that book in the last few years and decided I should finally check it out.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love especially that you're doing it on an active, intentional basis in airports and with people you remember, and it's like you're really applying it. So
is it Dr. Wayne Dyer? Is it one of Dr. Wayne Dyer's stuff?
Nonviolent communication? No.
No. Okay.
Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah.
All right, Mom, let's hear your 8 pages of notes.
Well, I'm not going to tell you the 8 pages of notes, but to me, this was a huge deal because, well, first of all, the first part of the chapter was about the insignificance of the body. So how Gary used the Passion of Christ to explain how the message got conflicted. It got changed, and how condemnation and betrayal is impossible. That the real message was peace, but everyone's missed it. Even the Christians have missed that. So if you interpret the crucifixion in any other way, you are using it as a weapon of assault. So peace is what was intended. So Gary, this is what I got out of it. Gary was saying, changing the message of Jesus, if you change any kind of message, strange things start to happen. And the message keeps changing. So he encourages us to keep the focus on the Course in Miracles and not to change it or make it more lenient, because then it'll get watered down throughout time. And so that was a good way to start the chapter. But then the second part was bigger for me because it talked about the forgiveness, which we're always talking about. But this was big for me. He says, if something rubs you wrong, there's something about me that I see in myself. So, for example, this happens like with certain individuals in my life. This happened yesterday at dinner at my mom's house. I was with some certain individuals that always rub me wrong, and it's like I can never figure out why. And I'm always trying to like say, what's the deal? And so what it is, and I see it now, is all it is an opportunity to forgive. So it looks like what it looks like the outside. It looks like it's in the outside of me. But in reality, it's the source that's inside me that's saying, this is not even out there because there's no reality with it. So trying to figure it out, also Gary said, it's paralysis by analysis. So that's not important. It's not important to even like figure it out. What's important is just to forgive it. You just have to forgive that. And because it really hasn't happened, because I made it up in the first place. And so if I forgive it, I can be free of it. So nothing, am I like going around in circles? That was like huge for me.
No, so how did you do in the moment, in the field?
In the field, I was like, I did that, the peace, you are Christ, like those thoughts. And I was able to like kind of distance myself and not get reactive and just look at it from a whole different perspective. But I didn't read this. I didn't hear the rest of this chapter until after the fact, which, I mean, I did well. I did better than I have in the past because but what I like was it's just something within me. I'm the source of that, whatever it is that I'm seeing that's kind of rubbing me wrong. It's not even like them because they're not even real. So it's something that I've made up. And it's just a call for forgiveness. So to me, that was huge. And I really loved the end of the chapter because he talked about those who hold grievances will suffer guilt, and those who forgive will find peace. Of course, we've been hearing that. Those who hold grievance will forget who they are, and those who forgive will remember who they are. From the very and that a wall of flesh around the mind. Our bodies is a wall of flesh around the mind, holding it as prisoner. So it's holding our mind as prisoner. And I have just noticed that I have like different physical pains every now and then. And I just know that it's my ego trying to, like, I'm trying to release my ego, but the ego is trying to distract me, because it's not ever anything like real major. It's just, it's just like the insignificance of the body is like, why even pay attention to it? I mean, really, it's teach only love, because for that is what you are. So it was, to me, this was a really, really applicable chapter.
Wow, Mom. I love your notes.
This is not even my notes. Like, I took a lot of notes. This was just my highlights, I guess.
I love your highlights. You're applying it out in the field, you know?
Well, you have to.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, or what's the point, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and another thing that I saw this was like a question for Gary when we meet with Gary Renard.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, so he said in the chapter, if we left heaven as one and we will return as one. So obviously there's like all these different generations of people, and we all left as one. Oh no, we all separated as one, right? So like Gary is saying that the Course in Miracles is the faster way to God. It's not the only way to God, but it's the faster way to God. I kind of answered my own question when I started writing it out, because it speeds the process. But I'm thinking, well, if we've got over here a Mormon, and we've got Course in Miracles, someone that's doing that, and your process is faster, but if you're all one, then it's like you're going to just speed up the process for all of humanity. It's not even like separating the processes.
Yeah.
So it was like, but my question is, does everyone have to be on the same level before everyone returns? Does everyone have to be on the same level? You know?
So what do you think the answer is?
I think everyone does have to be on the same level, but I think it's going to happen as one. I don't know. I think that's a good question for Gary.
Cool. Write it down.
It's written. It's right here.
Sweet.
Questions for Gary.
Oh, snap. You're ready.
I am so ready. I love this chapter. I just thought it was just so profound.
I do like what it says about, do you remember that part at the very end where it was like, why would we want to change the way everyone thinks in the world if the world doesn't even exist?
Right. It's not even about changing anything. Like,
it's not changing what people think. Because it doesn't even exist.
Right.
So it's like a total different paradigm.
Yeah, that's good. Anyway, awesome. That's my take on it.
Thanks, Mama.
Welcome.
All right. We have Angela.
Hey, I'm here.
Hey, Angela.
I'm at my student's house. I just was like, whatever. They're eating dinner. I'm up
here. So they're cool with you, like sitting up there for a half hour or whatever.
Yeah, like I've sat here and done work, like for a while. Like I'm friends with them. Like
yeah.
This is like another little office of mine up here.
Oh, nice.
I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do some work. And you're like, all right, cool, whatever.
Yay. Well, tell us. I mean, I want to hear about your landmark, but I guess first of all, what were your highlights from chapter 3?
Okay, I wrote them down. Let's see. You have to forgive different aspects of yourself. His fear of speaking was forgiveness lesson. I'm never upset for the reason that I think, which that's funny because that makes a lot of sense. And I was doing that without knowing it because I was like, oh, this is a thing. I'm going to like forgive it. You know, like I was like, I don't know what this is, but it doesn't feel good, so I'm gonna forgive it, you know. And it makes sense. I mean, funny, I'm seeing lots of parallels between this and Landmark, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird because they're slightly different headspace.
Uh-huh.
There, of course, there's a lot of overlap, but I've been more in the Landmark headspace lately, for obvious reasons. Let's see. Oh wow, this is like a week ago, so I'm not longer. Say, I've been kind of grumbly and incredulous regarding. Like, I think this was like 2 weeks ago. I was feeling kind of grumbly and incredulous. I don't know if I told y'all that I kind of like over forgave one weekend or like one time when I was driving from Dallas to Austin or Austin to Dallas. I don't know. I've done it a lot lately. And I was just like, I don't know. I think maybe like forgiving the entire 3 hours. And I think I just like over forgave and I just like got sick of it and didn't want to do it. Didn't want to like, I don't know. It was weird. And I was like, oh, so is there like a cap for me right now that I can't like forgive so much? And I don't know, because I'll get sick of it. I don't know. So I think that I kind of like, whatever it was, I was getting kind of grumbly.
Angela, can I say something about that? Gary did say something about forgive only, I mean, I actually wrote it down, like forgive only when it's appropriate or something. Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember? Yeah.
I remember him saying something about like, sometimes you don't need to forgive. I mean, it did feel like I had stuff to forgive though. There was like a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where I wrote that down. Forgive when it's appropriate. When something that bothers you, then it's time to forgive. Like, I'm not like you guys walking around just forgiving whatever. I am like forgiving when something really bothers me. And I really get it now that it's just me, that I'm seeing me as the source in that whatever is bothering me. It's really something that I made up because it's just an opportunity to forgive. And if I don't, then I'll just keep coming back and having to go through that lesson again and again. But yeah, I actually wrote that down because I thought that was very profound. Forgive when it's appropriate.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to do it all the time.
I don't know. Maybe it's okay to do it all the time. I just haven't done that.
At least I think it was overkill for me at that point, for whatever reason. I mean, I definitely had plenty of stuff to look at, but then I was just like, ugh.
So when you were all fed up for forgiving, then what did you do?
I just took a break for a few days because it just didn't feel authentic.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, like, it just felt kind of like, I mean, there have been times when I felt kind of like, I don't know if I can live in that space today. And I feel like that's legit because it's a crazy space.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty wacky space to live.
Oh, I know too what you mean, because like there's been times this past 2 weeks where I've been with, you know, family or friends, and it's just there was nothing to forgive, and I was just having a good time and just, you know, going with the flow and hanging out with my grandma, playing bingo or whatever, and I wasn't thinking my forgiveness thoughts, and I just didn't have to, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you talked about that in chapter 3 as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what if life's going pretty good for you? It's like, okay, then go with it.
Yeah,
but pretty soon you have an opportunity to forgive something.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Oh, I also, my second half of that was like when I was feeling kind of grumbly, but then I said, but when I listen to the audio, I feel better and lighter. Yay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that tends to help. Oh, I already said this, but I was already forgiving things in my life and didn't know that was a thing, but it felt right. And then I went, boom, comparing Left Behind series and 9/11 plays.
What?
Whenever he compared the way that they changed Jesus's message in the Left Behind series.
Oh, yeah.
To the changed message of Islam.
Uh-huh.
You know, for the 9/11 planes, I was like, whoa, dude.
Right?
Yeah. Whoa, he went there.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
The ego's thought system was at work in every time of our existence and our history.
Yeah. And then my last thing was, but everything is an opportunity to forgive. And I feel like I was going to put something else there, but I was like, oh, well, okay, yeah, those are my notes from chapter 3.
Great.
Thanks. I didn't write this down, but I liked the metaphor of the racetrack where, everybody's on the racetrack and everybody will finish. And I guess that's what Mama Krebs was talking about.
Yes.
Whenever I came on. And that feels like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like we're all there, we're all doing the work, but some of us are doing it slower, some of us are doing it faster.
Yes, everyone will finish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading that in my Course in Miracles book right now. I'm on chapter 13 of Course in Miracles, and it talks about how like it's God's will and it's the Holy Spirit's mission, and it cannot fail. And as much as you may think, or I may think, that it's far off because of people who are not even close to studying Course in Miracles in this lifetime, like it's going to happen, and it's going to happen for everyone regardless. And it's just very strong language, pretty neat to read.
That's awesome.
My 2 pages a day.
Show that spiritual bicep, you.
That's right. So, great. Thank you, Angela.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So tell us about Landmark, man. We all want to know.
It was an experience. It was
yeah.
really an
Was it empty and meaningless?
In the best way. Yeah, it's so funny because I felt like I already had a leg up walking in there.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the stuff they talk about, I'm like, oh right, this is like Buddhism. Like this is just kind of like Buddhism for a secular way of applying. I mean, but it is totally, they molded that thing so well. Like it's so, man, they have it down. They have it down. To like how, where like it's just an experience, and of course, everyone's like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what it was. I feel like I can remember the different parts of like, okay, they start you off with this premise, and then after you've accepted that premise, or like you've considered it, I suppose is a better way of putting it than accepted, then you can move on to this next premise, and it's like, oh, but like the way that it's crafted is that you get it like experientially, which I think is so different than just reading it. Because I was telling my boyfriend about this, and he was like, well, that sounds like Nietzsche.
Like what?
Nietzsche.
What's that?
Like the philosopher Nietzsche.
Oh.
The German Friedrich Nietzsche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dr. Wapnick talks about him all the time and actually quotes him in his books. He quotes him all the time.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, well, that just sounds like, he's like, that sounds cool. Like, you'd like Nietzsche. I haven't read any. So, yeah, I was just kind of like, there are a number of times when I was just sort of giggling to myself because I felt like, oh yeah, I've heard this before, and everyone else's brain's exploding. And like, my brain exploded too with, it's like every time you experience some of that kind of freeing information in a new way, it's great and explosive. But man, there were some people that were just like, what? Like,
yeah,
not heard any of the stuff before. And it was really cool to watch the transformations of people. It was so neat, and how freed everybody gets at the end. And it's just funny because the forum leader on Friday, I think it's on Friday, that says, just watch, I promise you, on the end of Sunday, I'm going to ask you where your constraints are, and you're going to say, they're gone. And, kind of like, really? Really? Is that really going to happen? And it did. I mean, not everybody said, yes, absolutely. But, all of us who were vocal about it were like, yeah.
Sweet.
I can do whatever I want now.
So did you like call people from your past and do all that stuff?
I did. I called my parents, but I didn't really have much
I didn't get a call.
Because we don't have any shit, man.
Now we do.
You're a silly boy, Nathan. Yeah, you're supposed to call people who you've been inauthentic with. And I'm pretty sure I've been pretty authentic with you, my friend. So yeah, there were like, I realized that there were stories that I created about how my parents are and why it's justified for me to be annoyed. And I realized, wow, okay, these things that they do are just the way that they love me, and their intention is they want to help me, even though I read it as this other way, and I've kind of like spun it just whatever, like I'm making up this story about what I think is going on, but it's not accurate. And so once I was able to see that they were just trying to love me in a certain way, then I could create this space to see it that way. So I felt like the biggest thing that changed for me, or that transformed for me, was the feeling of the lack of barriers between me and other people. So yeah, my I think I've always been kind of shy around my parents' neighbors, and that we went outside to like try to experience the eclipse, even though we didn't have any glasses or whatever. And some of the neighbors were out, and I did not hesitate to just be like, oh, hey, Helen, nice to see you. You know, like, my name is Angela. I've never met you. You know, like I didn't feel shy. Like shyness didn't make sense.
Wow.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm not, people get surprised when I say that I'm shy sometimes, but I am. And so, but now I don't feel like I am. I don't feel like it's required. And I think that came from the whole fear exercise where they get you to really experience your fear, which I was familiar with because of meditating and such, but to really feel your fear and then imagine, you know, really take on the consideration that you're afraid of everybody. And then they flip it and say, and now consider that everyone's also afraid of you. The reason that they do everything they do is because they're doing it for you, to look good for you, because they're afraid of you. And I was like, what? Yes. I don't know. It was like really kind of a weird reaction that I was excited about that. But it just really, it made me realize that we're all in the same boat, that we're all like nervous about talking to each other. And I don't know, knowing that just made me go, oh, well, then we have no reason to be nervous talking to each other.
Wow.
Yeah. If we're all like, well, like, oh my God, you know, all the way I'll be nervous together and then not be nervous. However that works.
That's neat. Wow. I'm getting more out of you sharing about landmarks. I haven't been for it.
Well, you know, I mean, they say that there were 93 of us there. There are 93 forums going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I talked to one woman at the end and she was like, I don't really feel like I got anything. I was like, oh, well, I mean, I guess that was your forum. I don't know what to tell you. You know, like, I don't know. But yeah, there were some serious transformations happening, and I would say I cried more for like other people's transformations than like realizing something in myself. And have you ever heard of or met Naveed Badi?
No.
Okay, well, he was my forum leader, and goodness gracious, he had some really, really intense stories to tell about transformations that happened to him and to his parents, and I was just like cried.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where's he from?
Originally from Pakistan.
Okay.
Yeah, his parents immigrated here, or like I think he might have. Yeah, I think he came when he was real young.
Really?
With his parents.
Wow. How did you like the Life is Empty and Meaningless?
I thought that was awesome. Like I knew, like, I didn't know exactly where he was going with it. I figured it out as we were doing that when he kept saying it, like, consider that life is empty and meaningless. And what I was feeling more than anything is how uncomfortable everyone else was. Like, they just didn't, that wasn't something they wanted to consider. That it was just, no. And like, of course, a few people got up and were like, but, and of course, that's what you're supposed to do in that space. And yeah, one guy who got up and was like, this doesn't mesh with Christianity, and I don't understand how to do with that. And he was like, yeah, it does, actually. But you know, I think everybody got to a space when he said, but we are all meaning making machines, and so we apply, and that's what's thing about it, is that you basically, whatever you want to make with that, is up to you.
Awesome, Angela. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
I was excited to hear about it. I just want to say one more thing too, and then we'll get back to the book call. Is my forum leader, Mind and Crystals, had Parkinson's disease.
Oh.
So he got up there and did the entire 3 days while his arm was shaking. And his name's Roger from Boston, Massachusetts, and he said that when he got diagnosed with Parkinson's, that he decided not to give it a meaning, and not to make it mean that he had to retire, and make it mean that, you know, he couldn't do forums anymore. He just said he's fine. His body just shakes a little. And he was just shaking the whole 3 days. He got up there, started the forum. I'm just watching this guy shake. Eventually I got used to it. You know? But it's just so cool because he didn't let his sickness or whatever mean something, you know? And he just keeps living his life. And it's just like one of the most inspirational people that I ever met, you know?
That's awesome.
So I know what you mean by having an inspirational forum leader.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're probably all inspirational.
Yeah, they're probably all pretty amazing, yeah.
Yeah, and because I think Naveed even talked about that guy. He was like, yeah, we have a forum leader who's like in his 70s. He has Parkinson's. He has more energy than any of us.
That's the one.
Yeah. It's like he runs on his dinner break. I mean.
Right? It's so cool. Well, thank you, Angela. Awesome to hear about your landmark experience. I know we kind of went off topic a little bit, but I was real excited to hear, and I want to acknowledge you for doing it, for going for it, and for signing up for the advanced.
Yep.
Ooh, get ready to design your future.
I'm ready.
Big time.
My seminar is on integrity, and one of the guys was like,
oh, yeah, that's
man.
great.
Okay.
We took that one. I can't wait for that. Oh, yay. All right, so let's end the call by just having everybody share what their highlights were from today, and then we'll talk about, and then we'll just end the call early for next week. So I'm excited for my highlights today. It was great to hear each of you talk about forgiveness in the field and what you're applying, and I like that everybody brought out a certain part of the audio that I had forgotten, because it's always nice to talk about that and hear again what people got out of it and help me refresh my memory. And I'm super excited for chapter 4. I love new content. This is new content. I have not listened to the whole thing yet. So that's what I got out of it. And of course, Angela's share on Landmark, my major highlight today.
Yeah.
All right. Who's next?
I should go last, I think.
That leaves Nathan and Viola.
Fight.
Hey.
Is it gonna be me? Gonna be her? Sounds like it's me.
You.
I didn't really have anything to say. It just sounded like it was my turn to go. Let's see, my takeaway.
Highlights of today's call.
Oh, my highlight, I guess Angela and I don't have any beef. That's good. And I appreciated Jared talking about how Gary's discussion of Christianity was like a forgiveness lesson, and I was like, oh yeah.
Can't be mad at Christians. Can't be mad at them. Can't hold it against them.
But if I don't get mad, how will I have something to forgive? And
you learned
yeah,
the lesson.
that's right. Yeah, I guess that's it.
All right. Thanks, Nathan. All right, my mama.
Hello. You are Christ, pure and innocent, always released and forgiven. Amen.
Amen. that was your highlight?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I've been saying that to so many people, and then sometimes I'll get mad at myself for whatever reason. And then I'll think, wait a second, you're Christ, pure and innocent, all is forgiven and released. And I kind of have been giving that thought to myself when I get upset at myself for whatever shortcoming I perceive I have in that moment. I just wanted to add that to the call, that it's kind of nice to give it to myself sometimes too.
Right on. Well,
You're giving it to yourself because you're all one. It's not like you're giving it to a separate body.
Yeah, we're not bodies.
And we're not separate minds either. So you're really giving it to yourself when you give it to someone, because it's impossible to separate that.
Yeah, very true. Very Course in Miracles teacher-esque there, Mom.
Gracias, mijo.
All right, Angela.
I think my takeaway from today, well, since I came in late, I didn't really hear what you guys said, but I'm excited about the fact that I feel less self-conscious on this video right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lack of barriers in communication is where it's at.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing about how other people are afraid too.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to keep showing up to me how the Course in Miracles and Landmark just kind of fit together really, really well. Like, I'm not surprised because you said that already. But it's just interesting how the definitions of what's happening or what's going on are slightly different, but they both work.
Mm-hmm.
And there were aspects of the Landmark form that worked better for me functionally than sometimes the Course in Miracles stuff does, but they fit together so well it doesn't really matter. You know? So yeah, it's going to be a fun exploration to coalesce that information.
Yes.
Hey,
Awesome.
Jared, can I tell you one more thing?
Yeah.
So what Angela was saying means a lot to me, because almost every significant disagreement or conflict I've had with Ellis turns out that we like both feeling the same way and both having the same problem. It's something like, hey, this is a need that I'm not having met, and like, this is the thing that you're doing that's stimulating. And she's like, yeah, well, I'm experiencing the exact same thing. And we found out like a year ago, I got some app for my phone called Life Purpose. This guy, Dan Millman, gives you like a number relative to your birth date, and then talks about some issues you'll encounter in your life. And then Ellis and I found out that we have the exact same number, and so we're like dealing with the exact same issues in this lifetime. We're like, what the fuck? So Angela talking about how if we are afraid of everyone else, then we have to consider that everyone else is afraid of us. And so now I think about that a lot. Like, if I'm experiencing some conflict or issue related to Ellis, I can pretty much assume that she's experiencing the same thing.
Huh.
Good.
Yep.
And Ellis is your wife's name?
Yes.
Okay. That's big time, man.
We have a grandson, Ellis.
I think they're probably two different people.
He's
Pretty
2
safe.
years old.
That's a safe assumption. Or no, we're all the same though.
We're all the same person. We're not a person even. We're all one.
Definitely doesn't make sense for the ego thought system.
No, because we still see people as being different from us, but it's all one.
The ego thought system made these bodies.
So 2-year-old Ellis is one with your wife, Ellis.
Yep.
The rest of us.
He's like, yep. All right, well, that does it for today's call. I had a great time talking to you. We will be back here next Friday, September 1st. And until then, everybody say have a good night and God bless.
Have a good night and God bless.
Good night and God bless.
Buenos noches.
Bye.